Hello everyone, welcome back to GGN. This is part 4. I'll have 5 parts today for Tuesday, December 10th, 2013. My website is ggnonline.net, and on YouTube my channels are DDarko 2012 and 2013. I even have a page on Facebook, but I don't really have access to it because I don't do that Facebook thing anymore. But anyways, I have a Twitter account too, actually, get updates through that. U.S., this is where I left off with, U.S. and economic collapse as China, Russia moving away from using the dollar. So this third video, the third video, we were talking about countries, Arab Gulf countries, even Turkey, they're all shifting away towards Russia. And then you have countries like Iran, and maybe even to a certain extent, if they get what they want, Syria, leaning towards the West. Like we covered in the first video, like someone like Ukraine, they have to pick and choose. You want the East or the West, right? So there's just going to be these huge trading blocks until eventually it's just one trading block, which I don't even know if it'll be considered a trade. But we also talked about U.S.-Russia nuclear war to end the human race. He says that's not for sure, but it's possible. He says that the nuclear weapons are a lot more sophisticated than they were, say, in World War II, used against Japan. So, and we have this the OPCW, talking about chemical weapons here. The chief urges Israel to join Chemical Weapons Convention. The Israeli regime is widely believed to have chemical weapons, as well as being the sole possessor of a nuclear arsenal in the Middle East with up to 400 undeclared nuclear warheads. The OPCW was founded in 1997 to implement the Chemical Weapons Convention, which bans the use of chemical weapons and requires their destruction. Tel Aviv has rejected global calls to join the Non-Proliferation Treaty, NPT, and does not allow the International Atomic Energy Agency to inspect its controversial nuclear program. On to more radiation-type news. Fukushima, outdoor radiation reading is 25 sieverts per hour. So, welcome to Fukushima, where the radiation is so bad it can be fatal within 20 minutes. We've covered this before about low wages and high-risk jobs wanted over there in Japan. This tsunami may have happened some 33 months ago, but the fallout just keeps getting worse. Japanese media is reporting that the intensity of radiation levels in the nuclear power plant devastated by the earthquake and subsequent tidal waves of March 2011 is now at its highest levels ever. So, TEPCO reportedly detected the deadly radiation in a duct linking one of the damaged reactor buildings to basically a tall ventilation pipe. To give you an idea how bad this is, the radioactivity has been measured at 25 sieverts or SV per hour. A total dose of 2 SVs is regarded as severe radiation poisoning. 6 produces a 100% mortality rate after 30 days of suffering. So we've covered before about how in China, they call it the party, the Communist Party, whatever, the People's Party. They have separate food farms. They have their own organic farms and organic beef for themselves. Rice grown near crippled Fukushima nuclear plant served to government officials. The rice from the fields in the Fukushima prefecture evacuated after the worst nuclear disaster in Japan will be served to government officials for 9 days in a bid to demonstrate the safety of the country's most beloved crop. Over a half a ton of the rice will be part of a test to prove the effectiveness of the decontamination process. So they gave assurances that the rice contains no radioactive substances. The rice balls tasted especially good after the great effort put into cultivating the crop, says the environmental minister. The rice from Onami was banned and shipments of the product were restricted in November 2011. It is 57 miles northwest of the stricken nuclear power plant. In Japan, special state secrets law. Whistleblowers and journalists in Japan could soon find themselves facing long spells in prison for divulging and reporting state secrets, possibly including sensitive information about the Fukushima nuclear disaster. Under a special state secrets bill expected to pass on Friday, public officials and private citizens who leak special state secrets face prison terms of up to 10 years, while journalists who seek to obtain the classified information could get up to 5. It said it's a threat to democracy, editorial writer said. It would have a chilling effect on the public servants who could become wary about giving the information to journalists. Critics say the new law marks the return of the days of the pre-war and wartime Japanese militarism when the state used the Peace Preservation Act to arrest and imprison political opponents. Putin dissolves state news agency, tightens grip on Russian media. He tightened his control over Russia's media on Monday by dissolving the main state news agency and replacing it with an organization that is to promote Moscow's image abroad. The move to abolish RIA Novosti, wow, that's a big deal, and create a news agency to be known as whatever this is, Russia Sogna, is the second in the 2 weeks, strengthening Putin's hold on the media as he tries to reassert his authority after protests against his rule. Most Russian media outlets are already loyal to Putin, and opponents get little airtime. But the shakeup underlined their importance to Putin keeping power, and the Kremlin's concerned about the president's ratings and his image. This is all over the board. It's all over the country. Obama, whoever, Cameron. People don't want him, right? It says here the head of the new agency to be built from the ashes of RIA Novosti is a conservative news anchor who once caused outrage by saying the organs of homosexuals should not be used in transplants. I remember hearing that video by that former KGB, at least he's supposedly a former KGB, Yuri Bezmenov. He's in that interview with G. Edgar Griffin, whatever his name is, and he was saying that Novosti and them are actually run by the KGB, so who knows what all this really means. But this person from Russia today, so the main focus is to highlight abroad the state policy and public life of the Russian Federation. But the new organization has strong similarities to APN, a Soviet-era news agency whose role included writing articles about the social, economic, and cultural life of the Soviet people and items reflecting Soviet society's point of view on important internal and international events. Putin urges armed forces to protect national interests in the Arctic. So we've covered this before, but it's back in the news from the 10th. And we also covered just recently Canada to lay claim to the North Pole amid Arctic resources rush. So on a bid to assert control over the large part of resource-rich Arctic. And going back to this, Putin on Tuesday ordered the Defense Ministry to take every step necessary to protect Russia's security and national interests. It says in the next year we need to complete the creation of the armed forces, new units. Special attention paid to deployment of the infrastructure and military units in the Arctic. So recently this year, Moscow has repeatedly emphasized its intention to return to the region. In October, Putin reconfirmed Russia would never surrender its Arctic area. Earlier this month, they deployed an aerospace defense unit and built an early warning missile radar system. So it's supposed to be scheduled for 2018 to be finished. All right, moving on. Russia reactivates military airfield in the Arctic region after 20 years from December 8th. In 2012, there was a helicopter crash that occurred during a visit to the island. Nobody died, but it halted the activities. I remember when I was in the military, that was back in, 2003, 2004, maybe even a little bit before that, but I remember hearing about some Russian submarine that went down and all the guys died. So for some reason, the Russians tend to have situations like that where they have plane crashes and stuff go down and ship crashes, but so do other countries as well, I guess, right? I mean, I guess you could ask the Polish, who think that the Russians basically assassinated their president and some of their higher-ups, their administration. But finishing up here, U.S. deploys submarine hunting jets to disputed air defense zone over the East China Sea. And this was actually from December 2nd, but they sent their first 6 advanced anti-ship aircraft to Japan. So fears mount tensions could spark unplanned military incidences. And this is after China in November established an air defense zone, and they scrambled some B-52 bombers. And of course, I saw this article here. At issue, an East Asia dispute, an underwater rock. I'm not sure what that means, but whatever. It could be some underwater rock that causes a world war, right? Nuclear holocaust. That's all it takes. China paper says smog is good for national security. The first thing I thought when I saw this was chemtrails, because that's one of the reasons they do it. Is to block radar, to jam missiles and GPS and stuff, communications. It says bad air could be a bonus on the battlefield. See, their only thing is they do spray. We know that they spray because they openly admit it, like the Russians, unlike the U.S. that doesn't admit to it, then they do it. But they have so much pollution that maybe they don't even need to spray as much. So they say they put a positive spin on the problem. The Communist Party-linked Global Times argues that while smog can affect people's health on the battlefield, it can serve as a defensive advantage in military operation by hampering lasers and missile guidance systems. So you know they're pretty keen on what the U.S. and the Western defense forces, I'm sure Russia and them too, are delving into, right? Not just delving into it, they have it up and running, I would imagine. Drone and satellite reconnaissance equipment becomes useless in smoggy conditions. So, unsurprisingly, the article was met with widespread derision from citizens angered by the inaction of the terrible air quality. So, but that's the cost of industrialization, I guess. And the elites, they don't really care. Just like the Japanese elites, they'll probably have some kind of, after they eat some of that tainted Fukushima rice, they probably won't even really eat it. They'll be given something different. But if they do eat it, they'll have separate care. Just like these Chinese elites here probably have their own health care, the best of the best in the world. And when they're done with all these people that are working in this industrial China, when they go completely autonomous with machines and robo-sourcing of jobs, and Chinese start demanding better wages and better standards of living, they'll hopefully, enough of them will be dead from all the smog. Sounds kind of sick and morbid, but I'm sure there's always that type of stuff that's considered. It says, but enemies wouldn't need to resort to missile attacks if the smog continues to increase. People will simply be poisoned to death. But, people are already being poisoned to death, If you're trying to take a shower and you don't want fluoride, but you're taking a shower in it, or they're spraying chemicals on you in a bid to battle climate change. Most of the chemicals in cars that you touch, it has all kinds of chemicals that get on you. Being hit with people walking around with their cell phones, surrounded by cell phones, creating like a little network of wireless frequencies, the towers pulsing through you, Enjoy it, right? I guess the most important thing is at least be aware that you're being poisoned to death. And because society is consenting to this through their silence or through whatever they voluntarily do it, you kind of get to stand there on the sidelines saying, I think this stuff's bad for us, maybe we should think about this, and they say, no, just shut up, everything's fine. So